Hey. How you doing? I'm Hoopy, your host, one of them brothers from Inglewood podcast, coming to you live and direct. And it is an exciting moment today. Today is Memorial Day as we celebrate or commemorate those who have served on various platforms. It has been a blessing to know both of my grandfathers who served in military and family members who served in public office, civil service work. And so it is just a great opportunity to acknowledge those who have come before us and those that are presently doing it now. It's sort of like a moment where I'd like to just kind of have some conversation. But before I do, I want to say thanks for all of you who have subscribed and are following, liking the content that we put out. I'm going to ask if you would do the same today. Like, subscribe, share, ring the notification button so that you'll be abreast as to every time we air an episode. And it has been a great journey as we have tried to put content out there that would be beneficial, informative, and of course, enlightening to situations that really occur on an everyday basis. So today won't be anything different as it relates to some of the things that we've been seeing in the media. There's one particular thing I would like to implement as we go into today's topic and subject matter. I first want to say, if you haven't mended broken relationships, or you haven't talked to someone in a long time, you don't speak to them with regularity, and maybe you just have a big disconnect and you've sort of thrown in the towel on those matters. You know, every situation is different, and I understand that. I think sometimes we just have to be the bigger person by, number one, apologizing for the part that we played. And I know many people, I can hear you now saying, well, I didn't do it. It wasn't my fault. That's on them. They can think what they want to think. I get that, especially if you've already went to those people or you've talked to that person and stated your position. And without that, I think it's one-sided. So a lot of times we have to just, be the bigger person and just kind of swallow the bullet and say, hey, I apologize for the things that I said, the things that I did, the part that I played. So I want to talk about those of you who are not keeping in touch. You're not following up. You're not actually calling. You're not writing. You're not video chatting. You're basically just doing you and moved on with your life. But I think it is very important that we check on each other, that we actually find ourselves seeing about the things that may be happening in our lives that we're not talking about. Depression and a lot of trauma exists on all levels, in all spectrums, from the aspect of family, siblings, social friendships, relationships, whatever the case may be. But I just think that it is extremely important for us to do wellness checks, okay? So this leads me to the point of reconciliation, and what does reconciliation look like for each of us? We all have a depiction or a view of it, but what does reconciliation look like in the form of practical expression or illustration? How do we put that out there? How do we make that a reality for each and every one of us? So what really has inspired me to have more dialogue concerning trauma, emotional trauma. Let's just kind of start from there. Emotional, psychological trauma that we might deal with on a regular basis, depression that we don't talk about, that we find ourselves being isolated and away from people, away from certain situations. Not that it's a bad thing. Sometimes we have to make choices as it relates to what's best for us. But I think to have things that you haven't sorted out, things that may weigh on you to a point to where you're sleeping in, you're finding yourself sort of not wanting to be around anybody, or you're not wanting to talk and communicate about things. It may be a deeper and more serious situation that I think many of us need to talk about. We need to address. We need to just kind of find ourselves in the aspect of, working these things out. And if we can do that, I think we can find our way reaching what we would call, mental health or let's just say sobriety in that process. So reconciliation really comes in the form of, admittance. How do we go to that person or to those persons and admit what part we played, where we went wrong, what we said, what we didn't do, how those situations affected us, and so on. How do we get to that place of communication? Is it cool to, what I don't like to do is assume? Do we rest in assumption, or do we really want to find out what's actually between you and another person? I like to speak for myself, because I think in doing that, I'm not pointing the finger at anyone, I'm not blaming anyone, I'm not singling out anyone. I'm actually using myself in the scenario. What can I do better? What can I say that would translate easier? Was it my tone? Was it my temperament? Was it my physical gestures? What could I have done differently to create a better solution? And sometimes you're not going to always agree. You're not going to always find yourself in that mode to where you can reach resolve. But I always felt like this: don't disagree to be disagreeable. Find yourself looking for resolve, if at all it is possible. I think there are so many biblical scriptures that will tell us how to maintain our character, how to maintain our level of temperament and those sort of things, to where now we can actually bring ourselves into alignment with what is best for the whole team. Sometimes people don't really like to deal with the team, but I think life is about teamship. It's about working together. It's about unification, and we need to find more of that throughout the different things that we experience together. So I want to talk about this aspect as well. One of the more notable ministers, Jamal Bryant, has just introduced a young lady who obviously he's been seeing, and now he is formally engaged to her. I believe her name is Dr. Carey, and she is a beautiful person from the physical aspect. I'm not judging anyone, so please don't take it that way. I just think that from his perspective and position of a spiritual leader, I think a lot of times people feel as though that a minister has to do life, and I'll say social life, a certain way, and we have to align ourselves with what society says, what that norm might be, and how we present that. What does that look like for ministers? I'm happy for Pastor Jamal Bryant. I don't know him personally. I've never met him. I've never ministered in the same arenas and circles that he ministers in. But I do know that he is a visible, high-profile minister figure, and that he has accumulated a lot of success. He has a successful podcast show. He has a successful ministry that he facilitates as a spiritual leader, and he has created a lot of, I would say, friends and relationships in politics. And so when you look at it like that, you know that a lot of people probably come his way. They try to probably bombard him with business propositions and so on. But overall, it's a good thing that he's conjoining with a young lady to build a life together, romantically, socially, and otherwise. He's been pastoring this church in Atlanta, Georgia for 5 years now, and he made the statement that he's been leading the church as pastor. Now he's giving the church a first lady. So I commend him on that, and I say kudos to the both of them in efforts to being a model for ministry. Now, he came against scrutiny, opposition. I'm not here to pull down anyone. I'm not here to give a negative perspective of what has happened, because as I forestated, I don't know Dr. Bryant, and I don't know his wife-to-be. I do know that they're in the public eye, so it's fair game for the media. It's fair game for those who consider themselves as influencers, and those who actually use this type of content to create something controversial. So without touching what Jamal Bryant has done in commitment to taking a bride, I just want to mention that as it relates to the things that will be said about you, the things that will be mentioned or even thought of can be offensive. And when people say things that are not true, say things that are derogatory, those relationships become fragile and fragmented. And when those relationships are broken and people eventually go their separate ways, that is a big opportunity for reconciliation. Can some things be reconciled? Yes. Will all things be reconciled? No. It's not even biblically approved or certified that reconciliation will be made in most every relationship. There was a time when we as humanity were separated from God and our relationship was broken. Therefore, we needed a savior. We needed someone to stand proxy as well as sacrificially in our stead to bring us back into right standing. And I like to use that as a tool to institute in this matter, because we've seen the practical relationships break and break apart and be severed, and then we've seen broken relationships come back together by the point of love and reconciliation. So I just really wanted to talk about this in essence to someone listening, hoping that they can regain the perspective of a healthy relationship that they once had with a person or with persons. And it stems from all aspects of our existence. We have parents that aren't on good terms with their children. We have children that aren't on terms with their siblings. We have family members that aren't on good terms with family, whether it's immediate family or distant family. It's just an array of different things that I believe can be fixed. It can be talked about. And even if you don't come back together and the relationship is never the same, it has reached resolve. You have agreed, and all parties involved has agreed that this is just not going to work. This is just not going to be what it used to be. So reconciliation has to be considered as a formidable tool to use in situations before that final chapter has been closed or before you reach the end of something. I think the effort in reconciliation should be at least proposed, tried, or practiced or exercised to bring some type of understanding. So I'm actually standing in a position to where I would like to bridge all gaps, if at all possible, with broken relationships leading to reconciliation. Because at the end of the day, like I was taught as a child, my brothers and I, we had a mantra, simply says, we're all we got. And that's how we were raised. That's what was instituted in our lives, the culture by which we were woven in, and it worked. Not saying that we always agreed, because we didn't, but we knew the final line or the bottom line was that we had to get along, we had to live together, and we had to be supportive of one another. And I think that that's the key. So I'm going to end this segment and ask you again to like, subscribe, share, ring the notification button. Let us know what we can do, what we can provide to create and sustain the content that's being issued, so that we will be able to monetize and get this to the masses. So thanks again. Like, subscribe, share, ring the notification button, and we'll be back with fresh content. This episode is coming to a stop, and I'm so happy to present it. I'm Hoopy again, your host. Talk to you soon. Take care. Peace.